Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of That Annuity Show. Ramsey, good to see you.
Always great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for recording on here. We have a beautiful Friday afternoon here, just before the holidays are coming up. So, thanks for doing this, and more importantly, thanks to our guest, Mr. Greg Dinetz. Greg, how are you?
Welcome. Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks. Greg is co-founder of Loan Beacon. Loan Beacon is a boutique marketing firm that helps the financial services industry generate leads and close business. And I think it's, my head is, Greg, just ripe to talk to you because I'm coming off a sales conference where we had some of our top producers down in your neck of the woods in Florida, and spent a lot of great time talking to them about their marketing challenges, their customer creation challenges, and a wide variety of business models. You know, all great people, all working hard, all trying to stay ahead of the game, and it's tough. So I guess first question is, how did you end up in our crazy financial services insurance world? What's your backstory?
Well, we didn't start out in this space, so that's for sure. My partner and I, John Capuano, the other co-founder, we met at WOR Radio about 25 years ago when we were managing at the station. And we worked with financial institutions and financial advisories, and we just really enjoyed it and felt that that space had been underserved when it came to their marketing needs. And as our careers progressed and my partner, John, went on to manage, really had an illustrious career, managed some of the biggest talk stations in the country. My goal was to own radio stations, so I bought my own radio stations. And then about 10 years ago, we were talking about how much we enjoyed this space and helping them with their marketing. And that was the foundation for Loan Beacon, and this will be our 9th year in business.
Interesting. And can you just give us a sense of what your typical clients look like? You know, the business mix, the size, the geography.
You know, it is literally all over the place. We've got clients from coast to coast. We have some smaller advisories that maybe are doing $6 to $10 million a year and have big dreams and goals. And we work all the way up on the institutional side with firms that have $275 billion of AUM. So just a wide range of firms, and it really comes down to what their goals and their needs are. And so we don't generally base who we work with based on their size. We look for the right type of entrepreneur. That's what's most important to us. We look for courage and vision and some patience sprinkled in there. We look for somebody who's committed to their long-term goal.
Patience. That's a rare commodity in this business. You know, I had a conversation with one person. Said, well, I need to be found on Google. I said, well, we can help you with your search. Just know it's going to take about 3 months. He said, oh, that's what everybody else tells me. How many does that winnow the market down? What does that funnel do? What percentage of agencies agents have that kind of patience?
Well, you're right. We don't live in a very patient world, especially when it comes to that next appointment. But if you're building, our goal is to build a sustainable lead generating platform for our clients. So we want to help them get off of what I'll call the treadmill of trying to find where that next appointment or where the next leads are coming from. We want them to control that process as much as they can, and that does take some time. But what it really boils down to is setting the proper expectations. I think that if people understand kind of what does the road ahead look like, they can determine whether or not that's a pathway that suits their business model.
So I want to follow up on that a bit. So we chatted about that a little bit ahead of hitting the record button. Expectation management is obviously super important, and one of the challenges is that many folks that offer similar services or services that are purported to be similar will extol the virtues of digital marketing, but won't really solidly define one what success is going to be, and two, the other sort of challenge I see is that if it takes 3 to 6 months, how do you know you're making progress? How do you know you're making progress along the way? It's one thing if this great thing's going to happen in 3 months, but if it takes 3 months to find out it didn't work, right? That's a problem too. So, anyway, compound question, which is one of my bad habits. So let's start with expectation management, and then we'll go to sort of figuring out, is it working along the way?
Okay, let's talk about what this industry is terrible at, and what this industry is terrible at is they are terrible at putting shiny objects in front of advisors on a continual basis. And each shiny object held up by some parent organization is the next solution to all of your marketing problems. And this is the answer right here. And then when that doesn't work after 3 months, 6 months, or a year, it's the next shiny object. And so I get the frustration. We really understand that, because when we're talking to somebody, they're so skeptical by this point because they've been shown so many next great things. And the fact is, there are no shortcuts, right? There's the proper way and some best practices, but there are no shortcuts. So setting expectations for us is to have those reality chats. And when we begin our relationships, we do some old school and some new school things. So old school, we do SWOT analysis with our clients and really trying to figure out where they're at, where they want to be, their opportunities, their threats. We also really like this. It was an HBR study, and it's a sales exercise we do that identifies objective, scope, and advantage. So we try and lay the groundwork of strategy. And through this, we're setting expectations on, here's all the potential pathways based on your goals and your business model. Now, what you're asking also, Ramsey, is how do we benchmark along the way, right? Because I can tell a lot of people, for instance, are interested in radio. We have a radio background, and we can definitively tell you there is so much bad advice on how to do radio proliferated inside this industry that we've cleaned up so much of it. And it starts with the media buy, the schedule, the programming, just everything. So we'll tell somebody, look, if you want to do radio, I'm going to tell you right now, first of all, you're going to commit to 12 months, and you're probably not going to see ROI for 6 to 9 months, okay? If you factor in how long it takes somebody to make an initial contact, then you set an appointment at some point in the future, then you have 2 or 3 meetings, then you get paperwork signed, you get it back. By the time you're going to see something come in, let's have a reality chat. It's going to be 6 to 9 months. Those conversations aren't happening, right? So people are jumping in, they're plopping down money on poorly advised buys, and they're getting frustrated. So what we will do with whatever marketing we're doing is we'll benchmark it. So while in radio, as an example, it's going to take 6 to 9 months of ROI, we'll know within the first 60 days, 45 days, whether or not we think it's working. But we're looking for certain benchmarks along the way to tell us, are we gaining traction here? Now, we can do it much easier on digital marketing, where we can look at benchmarks right away from the analytics and say, how's the buy working? Are we achieving some of our goals? And the goals aren't always, we're setting an appointment next week. The goals might be building audience, might be building engagement. So there's a lot of different benchmarks that we utilize along the way to know, are we going in the direction we want to go in? Is this a good investment for us?
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the problems, Rams. You kind of went through I think, look, I'm a runner. Okay, on my Achilles, this is what happens. Oh, my Achilles is hurting me. Well, that's great. You got to let the Achilles heal, but it really isn't your Achilles, Paul. It's your calf, and you could be stretching your calf out there. How do you work your way through that discovery process? Like, do you have to earn your way in? Ramsey, it's not working because guess what? Your process over here didn't work. You thought this was a warm, hot lead, and you just treated it like that, and it really was a 6-month lead? I don't know, Greg.
Can I actually just add to your question there, Paul?
Yeah.
So, Greg, I was watching one of your videos. I think it was a Future of Marketing. It was a few years back, and one of the things you talked about was that you really try to understand your clients' processes. So tell us about that piece and how that ultimately sort of differentiates. I think that may dovetail with what Paul is asking here.
So I'm going to take one step back to answer this because we call it our core four, right? Where we focus on in our company, and it's websites that work, and it's digital media buying and marketing, and we also do traditional. And then it's email marketing automation is our third core, help nurturing those leads and having a strategy. The fourth one, this is where I'm getting back to your question, is practice management. We kind of fell into practice management. We weren't planning on doing this. The reason why we ended up doing it is it was early on in the company, and we were getting really good results for our clients. And this continued for a number of years. We're getting really good results, but we'd have the meetings with them, and they'd say, well, I'm not closing business, or these aren't good leads, or, the litany of reasons why it hadn't converted. And so we're kind of doing our checkups along the way and going, well, everything looks good on our end from a diagnostic standpoint. And that led us to asking questions about what's the internal process. Map out for us everything that happens once you pick up the phone and it's a prospect on the other line, or they send in something digitally. What's the pathway that a prospect travels through in your organization once they come in? And it was through that process of questioning that we uncovered a lot of our clients did not have a real sales infrastructure thought out. And so we started helping them develop sales infrastructures. And that was really an important part of and core of our business. And that was something we kind of stumbled into, but it became a core element.
Interesting. I guess, at what point, Ramsey asked this question, which is, what if you wait 6 months and it doesn't work, right? Greg, you touched on a little bit, which is set some intermediate benchmarks, make sure, before you're asking for ROI, you're seeing click-through rates or whatever. But how big do you have to be before you can actually afford to actually do this? Like, how much success do you need before you can start to say, I'm going to make a 12-month bet on radio?
Well, look, radio is certainly not for everyone, and I use that as an example, but we're completely agnostic about where we're getting our leads. So, if tomorrow it's a sandwich board and a megaphone on the corner that gets the best leads, like, we're going to be all in on sandwich boards and megaphones on corners, right? But the reality is, it depends on a bunch of factors that are unique to the firm that we're working with. You don't have to be an enormous organization to think about investing in your marketing. If you're in business, you have to be marketing. And the first place that every person should start with, because every person can afford this, is a website that works. And I know that sounds silly in the sense of, what do you mean a website that works? And I can tell you every client we take over, I'll say to them, how many leads are you getting through your website on a monthly basis? Wait, don't answer. I'm going to tell you it's 0 to 3, and it's probably 0. And every time they go, it's 0. And I will tell you that when we build a website, we haven't built one yet, and that leads haven't immediately started coming through. Now, website, everyone can afford to do a website. And I'm not saying everyone needs our website. It'd be very nice if they wanted one of ours, but the point is, it's about your brand messaging, your USP, your unique selling proposition, the proper placement of these differentiators. It's about having things to engage with on your website, content, downloadable content, videos. It's about having good submit forms in the proper places. There are these elements that when you put them together, they work. So this is my way of saying the first thing, I don't care even if you're tiny, invest in having a good website, because nowadays that is how people check you out first. That's the first thing everyone does, is they look you up. And if you're not investing and don't give yourself a good look with good ergonomics that are geared towards your target audience, you're shortchanging yourself. So you start there. And really, there's very affordable ways to market yourself. Digital marketing has great reach. It's very affordable. I said the word reach, so I'm going to pause really quick and tell you the three most important elements of good marketing are reach, frequency, and impressions. You need to build reach, frequency, and impressions, right? It's healthy for your brand messaging. It's healthy for calls to action. That's how marketing really starts to add up for you.
So, a bunch of stuff there. I'll start with the website. And having gone through that process, a few years back, I think one of the things that was interesting about the process to me is that I had this naive illusion that you would just hire a company to build it and they would know what to do. But in fact, it's in some ways it can be like the conversation between somebody who's building a house and the carpenter or the construction worker. Without the architect, there's a lot is lost in translation going one way, and then going the other way. There isn't necessarily guidance to the consumer about what it is they should be asking for. So, like when somebody, if you're a in this case an advisor, right, and you get questions like, "What colors do you want?" Well, the advisor's question may very well be, "Well, what colors work best?" Like that's in my view, the thing that often isn't there isn't a specific set of choices and recommendations, as much as what do you want to do. And the issue is that a lot of times, if somebody spends their life figuring out how to give financial advice, they're not experts in web design. So that's one of the things that I find is often lacking in the system.
Ramsey, I love that you use the building a house analogy, because it is very much like that, and it can be very overwhelming. What we do is we'll start with understanding. We'll show them a bunch of examples of sites and try and get a gauge of what do you like. We know what functionality we want out of it, but we want to understand your brand first. So we always start with conversations about the brand, because we want to bring to life through the website, through imagery, colors, which should match the logo palette to some regard, right? But we want to bring the brand to life and let the website kind of exude that brand messaging. So we start with really drilling down on tell us what are the unique qualities of your brand, why are they unique, what would current clients say about you, what would you like clients to say about you. We take all of this information and we're starting to build that picture for them, and then we'll show them some examples, and then we'll make the recommendations on where we think that they should place things. We'll create a site map for them to explain how we're going to lay it out, and here's why. What we do as a company is we try and make it really an easy experience that's not painful. We try and keep things as turnkey as possible. We need approvals, we need input and feedback and things of that nature, but boy, that process could be difficult if you're just left on your own, and we avoid that.
So that's part one, and then once you have the website built, you mentioned before there's need for certain content, right? So it could be white papers, blogs, you name it. Again, where should all that come from? Because again, the advisor is trying to spend their time cultivating clients, making investment decisions, right? Actually, sort of running the business, outside of that. So where should they get that content?
We work with some brilliant people. I mean, truly impressive, smart people. But they should focus on what they're there to do, which is to be a financial advisor, right? They have some great input on marketing, But that's our job, is to really take over that, bring the ideas, bring the recommendations, do the execution. So when it comes to, as I said, we've tried to build all of these resources around them. So as far as content, we've invested heavily in content. We have a library of almost 25 white papers, 25 guides right now. We have 3 books. We have just under a dozen webinars. We write new show outlines each week, which could be used for radio shows or podcasts or mini videos or vlogs. Calls to actions are built in. So we write this full script. We write blogs each week. When it comes to content, we've invested in that so that we can create content and custom content for our clients based on their needs. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of general information that the consumers, that the the investors and people planning for retirement and all different age groups, they're looking for some foundational information. Everyone's at a different stage in their customer journey as they're doing their discovery. So we've created this library of content that really comes in handy, that we custom brand for our clients, and it's providing that foundational information that someone's looking for, that they can get their hands on. And the whole point of it is, you're going to have questions after you review material. You should have questions right now. You're going to have questions after you read it. We want to be seen as a credible source and resource for you to ask questions to, meaning from the client side, the advisor side. That's our whole point in all of our marketing, is fostering engagement between a prospect and our client. And that engagement can happen through many different types of platforms and in many different arenas, whether it's a live event, which a lot of advisors like they do, whether it's seminars or workshops, whether it's virtual events, whether it's content marketing and thought leadership. It's truly about bringing these two people together, right? Bringing the client, our client, the advisor, and a prospect together so that there's engagement.
Yeah, I think, following that line, Greg, I again heard some just interesting anecdotes, a couple different places. You hear the same thread a couple times. You're saying, okay, there's something here where I build content, put it on my website. I build a podcast. I do a video. You mentioned frequency, impressions, and I think frequency and reach, right? Digital expands that, but it also feels like in some ways the ROI has to be measured over like a 2-year period. I mean, I've heard stories where people put up a podcast or a video, and 2 years later, somebody who's been listening comes in and actually buys from that. It never would have happened if I'd just been sending stuffers to a mailbox. I mean, does the shelf life shorten online, or is it actually longer? Does it have a longer tail?
Well, it's a great question. And there are so many different channels to reach people, so many different ways to engage with prospects, right? So we break down lead flow into 2 categories: MQLs, which are marketing qualified leads, and SQLs, sales qualified leads. Marketing qualified leads, that's a prospect earlier on in their buying process, earlier on in the discovery. They're top of funnel, right? Those we can bring in very quickly and really efficiently. I'm talking about we're bringing in those types of leads digitally for $5, $10, $3. It's content marketing based. Sales qualified leads, right? Makes sense that those people are lower in the cycle. They're getting closer to a decision. They're going to be more expensive to bring in. You're going to use different strategies to bring them in. If you say to me, which one do I need? You need both of them, right? You need both of them in your funnel. And so you don't have to wait 2 years to start building your database of prospects that you want to nurture, that are going to, some are going to convert, right, a certain percentage to do business with you and book appointments. There's going to be people that are ready today. And the analogy you used about 2 years later, that's a very, very common one that we hear in 2 areas. Number one is on broadcast, whether that's a podcast or on traditional terrestrial radio. It's an interesting medium in the sense that I like to rate from a hot scale to a cool scale, prospect meter, right? So I'll say like the hottest prospect is a referral. Like I'll put that at my top. A radio lead, a broadcasting lead, that's a pretty warm prospect because they feel like they've built a relationship with you before you ever sit with them. They know you. You don't know them, but they already feel like they know you. That's the wonderful thing about it. Broadcasting is the original form of social media, and they feel like they've gotten to know you during that process. So that's a really good one. What we hear a lot with that is, I've been listening to you for 2 years, just like you said, and like I love everything you say, and I really feel aligned with you, and that's why they come in. And our formula for marketing, here I'm going to let everyone in on a big secret. Here's our formula for marketing. It's 75% emotional, 25% intellectual. If you're leading with facts and figures and statistics, you're going to lose more business than you're going to win. If you reach them emotionally and they build a relationship with you and they feel a connection with you, you have a much better chance of beating out your competitors. So on the broadcasting front, I hear that a lot. The other area where we see some comments like that is in our database nurturing, where we take someone's database that they say are dead leads, and we re-engage them. And it could have been 2 years ago. And we're nurturing them now to a lower position in the sales funnel who are ready to book an appointment. So great question, and we see that frequently.
Okay.
So what do you think? All right, there's probably a lot of advisors out there that are sort of in limbo, trying to figure out what the next step is. I think both Paul and I have related stories, again, ahead of hitting record, about agents really clamoring to find the right answers, and sometimes they're stuck underneath the umbrella of a larger organization, and struggling to sort of find satisfaction. Like, what's the next best action for somebody that's in that place? Because it seems to me like it's going to be very hard to do business going forward without having some footprint, some digital footprint. So how can they best get? What's the first step? I mean, obviously they can call you, but beyond just who they specifically call, what should they be targeting first? How should they be thinking about it?
Well, I think the first place to start, we always talk about brand, right? And whether it's you're under a larger umbrella or you're out as an independent, what makes you unique? What are those irrefutable, unique qualities that you can tell me in 35 words or less on this is what makes me unique? And it can't be we give great customer service, right? So the first part, I before I want somebody open up their wallet and throwing money out, let's understand what our message is going to be, right? Because if you can't come up with a good enough reason why someone's going to choose to do business with you, you're already starting kind of making it more difficult on yourself, right? So I would say, let's think about the unique qualities of you and your personal brand, and let's now get a little strategic and think about what are you investing in marketing today? What is your marketing budget? And I think establishing a budget is a really helpful and healthy thing to do in business, right? We have budgets all over the place in our lives. Then you should have a marketing budget planned. From there, things become a lot easier because now you have options that are going to open up to you, and there's so many different pathways from digital marketing. If somebody, I look at digital, like we don't even call ourselves a digital agency because to us, we live in a digital world. So everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone lives digitally. So it's just the way that we're communicating nowadays. And you have to be communicating to people digitally, right? You have to be. So Ramsey, you have to be in that game. If you're going to be if you're going to do marketing, there has to be forms of digital marketing. We believe heavily in whether you want to utilize a Facebook type of a platform, or you're doing search, you're doing remarketing. So some type of external marketing on a social platform to bring new prospects into your funnel. And we believe heavily in database marketing email automation. We do it slightly, we kind of take it to a few levels beyond what most people are used to, but it's so important because we look around at advisors and I say, well, how many people are in your database? And it could be 1,000, could be 5,000 if they've been, or 10,000 if they've been doing events for years, and nothing's happening with them, or they're getting some random once a month drip campaign that looks like spam. It's those. That's the gold mine, is your database. You've paid for those prospects. They're there. They've expressed interest in the space. And I'm telling you right now, today, there's people in your database that are willing and ready to do business. And if I said to an advisor, hey, I have your competitor's database right now available to you. Do you want it? Would you like that database? They would also, yeah, I'll take the database, but yet they ignore their own database by and large. So there's a lot of little things that you can do from an efficient standpoint before you go spend big money to secure the things that are really that you have at your disposal today. You can get a website for, you don't have to spend a ton of money. You can get a functioning, good website. You can market to your database in a consistent, relevant, and timely way and measure that. And you can get into digital ad buying really efficiently. So there's a lot that people can do.
Yeah, this has been great, Greg. So I guess my question for you is kind of like Ramsey's saying it, but a little different twist, which is, what are the simplest but most important questions that every advisor should be asking themselves as we kind of head out of this pandemic?
Oh, boy. Everything changed for everyone. Well, it did overnight, right? And we literally felt bad for, it's going to come out wrong, I was going to say for people that weren't our clients, but we felt bad because a lot of people that were heavy into the event space were really left flat-footed in a scary place. Our clients, I would say most of them had their best year and best years inside the pandemic, because we already had them in fully formed digital strategies. So they were ready for it. So as we project forward, right, there's what I would like everyone to know is their services are more needed now than ever from the consumer standpoint, right? We've got so much uncertainty going on in the world. People are still retiring. People are still planning for their futures. People still need your help. So the question is what are you doing to get in front of them? And it's going to be a very simple answer here. And it's kind of going back to some of the things I said, but the thing is to really take a hard look at your business, right? We like to build goals we start and work backwards. So if someone tells us, I don't care if they tell me I want to do 10 million of new production or 200 million in new production. We start looking backwards. We say, okay, what's your average client worth? How many new appointments do you have in a week? How many closes do you have? And we start filtering backwards. How many prospects would we need to generate based on conversion rates for you to hit the goal that you're saying you want to be at? And are you truly being honest about what your average client is worth? So we look at everything from, and this is what I would encourage people to do, is get a good grasp on what their business truly is. Not what they want it to be, but where's their business today? What does it look like from their key accounts, right? And getting to a key account, everyone I think knows how to do that. You take your full client list. You see where 80% of your revenue comes from. It should be about 20% of your client base, and you draw a line. Those are your key clients. You build an avatar, build a profile based on your key clients. Now let's talk about, are your current key clients the type of clients that you want moving forward? But where I'm going with this is it's being introspective. It's strategy, right? But what it's not, and this is going back to the beginning of the conversation, it's not throwing money blindly at shiny objects. It's being a little more strategic and thoughtful about how you're going to spend money, because it's an investment. And that's the way we view it, as it's our own money we're spending. And so we really just want to make sure, before anyone spends a penny with us, at least, is how are we going to make this work? Are we set up for success? Do you have everything in place internally? Are we ready to go out externally? So I would say start with being introspective about where your business is today. Create a strategy of where you want it to be tomorrow. Let's look at the budget, and then understand some options.
Ramsey, final questions,
Yes.
thoughts?
No, I think we covered the critical issues. I certainly wasn't shy about what I think are some of the pitfalls in the digital marketing space. And Greg, thank you very much for addressing them, both in terms of one, acknowledging them, and two, sort of talking about how to keep somebody that works with you potentially accountable.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And it's important to look at those metrics and analytics based on your campaigns that you're doing, because I think Paul and Ramsey both mentioned this earlier. How do you know when? Do you really know when your marketing's working? And the fact of the matter is while something like radio is a little trickier, digital is infinitely trackable, and it's trackable very quickly to know if you're on the right path. So I would tell all of the listeners that you can be in control of your marketing. You can be in control of it. You can know when it's working for you. Maybe you don't know if is this the best campaign I've ever done, or you don't know right off the bat. But analytics and measurement is that's gonna guide you.
Yeah, Greg, this was terrific. Thanks for spending time with us. And if people want to find you, how do they do it?
Well, certainly visit our website, which is lonebeacon.com, LONEBEACON, lonebeacon.com. You can always reach out for me. I don't know if that's the easiest with my last name, but I'll throw out my email address, and people can hit me up there. It's Dinetz, DINETZ, @lonebeacon.com.
Excellent. All right. Greg, Ramsey, thanks so much for spending a nice afternoon in your recording with us.
Pleasure.
Great. And so for all of our listeners, thanks for joining us. And, come back next week for another episode of That Annuity Show. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.